Tell me about the Neil Peart story and that chapter in the life of ECW Press.
Yeah, a bit of background is that we were being in book publishing. The big publishers like Penguin Random House have their own distribution under their own roof, but the medium-sized and smaller publishers assign it to a third party. And the third party who was doing our distribution in Canada was a company called Stoddart, which was part of General Distribution. This was the biggest distributor of Canadian published books at the time, all the way through the 90s. And then they ran into trouble, partly because of the Chapters Indigo merger, partly because of the banks, partly because of the market, mostly because of the returns that they got when the big stores opened up, and then turned out that not everybody was buying all those books. So because of the stupid rule in the book business that books are returnable, they ran out of cash. So there we are. We haven't received any money from sales for quite a while, and we are in desperate shape. And I get a manuscript from another publisher through an agent by a drummer, a rock drummer. And we all know what people say about rock drummers, or we may know. I don't know. Anyway, it happened that at that point, my wife had been on my case because she always wanted to go to Bermuda. And so we went off season because it was cheap in February. And the weather is like North Carolina at that point, windy and it's gusty and,
Yep.
in the 40s and 50s. But we were in Bermuda. We had the hotel to ourselves pretty well. And I'd taken this huge bundle of paper with me. And it was a manuscript by the drummer. I am not a hard rock fan. I'm a guy from my generation. I'm the Beatles, and I'm Leonard Cohen, and I'm folk music. And I'm also a big fan of Baroque. So Bach and Handel are people I listen to all the time. But I don't listen to Rush. This was the band. Three-person band, two guitarists and a drummer. And the drummer had written the book, and his name was Neil Peart. So I took it along because I like to read when I'm on holidays. And it could be a book that I'm looking at, it could be a book that's published already. So I'm sitting in the hotel room in Bermuda, at the looking out the window at the ocean, and it's big winds and high waves. Who wants to go outside? And I start reading, and I read the first page or so, and I tell you, Robin, I actually got a rise on the back of my neck. I could feel the hair standing up on the back of my neck. It's happened about 3 times in my life with books. And I thought, oh man, what's going on here? And I read a few more pages, and then I turn to my wife, Sharon, I say, this guy can write. And whenever I say that, I just do it. It just comes out of my mouth. I say, what am I saying? What do we do with a rock drummer? And then we hustled to get the book out because they were going on tour at the end of June. This was at the period where we had no money coming in because our distributor was going bankrupt. Hadn't paid us in 4 months at that point, probably. So I go through the process, negotiate with a very bad agent in New York, and have difficulty getting the deal. And at the last minute, when I'm in London at the London Book Fair, and this is the day before email and before any other kind of communication like that, I'm faxing back and forth using the Holiday Inn fax machine I'm in, I don't know where I am, somewhere in London. And we finally come to an agreement that I'm going to pay an advance of $25,000.
25,000 back then.
Had no
That's a
money. I had
financial
no
risk in
money.
itself.
I
Yeah.
had no money and no hope coming up with the 25. All I knew was that I had a Canada Council grant coming due. Usually they paid it out in April or May.
Hmm.
And it would have been like 60 or 70,000, something like that. So I go ahead, and I'm ready, and okay, I'm going to do the 25. And then he sends me the fax, and he said, of course, it's in US dollars. Oh, shit. Now what do I do? Because at that point, the dollar was maybe 78 cents or something. And I said, I love this book. It's going to it's do great. It's going to be at the merch table. They're doing 80 or 90 concerts. They get 14, 15,000 people a night. But I put my foot down and I said, can't do it. Got to be in Canadian dollars. And that was it. I got the book. And that was in April, usually is when the London Book Fair was. And then we got the book out by June 30th.
Wow.
A big book. And tightly edited, well designed. And at the concerts, on the merch table, the fans were buying the book. And the book was selling for 25, 35, 50 bucks. I don't know how much it was selling for at the merch tables. But the thing was that the company that ran the merch tables paid us right away. And that cash from all those concerts allowed us to continue to breathe until we got through a little bit further into the fall. So that's why he saved the company.
Yeah,
and that book, Ghostwriter, has gone on to sell maybe 220,000 copies so far, and continues to sell.
And Neil became a serial author for you. I think you published
He did
subsequent books for him.
He did.
And if you were to add up all the royalties, I think I read somewhere where it's right around $1 million, right? Like it was.
We only guessed at $1 million. It's probably $1.2 million, $1.5 million. It was hard to figure out from the numbers we had.